Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC 282, and in the co-main event, we have a highly anticipated lightweight matchup, Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. I'm doing a bunch of UFC 282 prediction videos, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and the ones that I already have done, I will link them down in the description if you want to go check them out after this one. So you have Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon in the co-main event of a pay-per-view. Two unranked lightweights in the co-main event of a pay-per-view. In my opinion, this does not deserve a co-main event slot, but we'll give the UFC a little bit of a pass because Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2, the original main event, got canceled. They elevated the original co-main event, which was Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev, to the main event. And then you ended up with Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon as a co-main event. I think there's some better fights on this card that could be a co-main event, but I understand why the UFC is doing it because Paddy Pimblett is very popular, has a following, and they think they can use him to promote the card and add some pay-per-view buys. So I'm not going to complain about it too much. But this is a fight where you have a slight step up in competition for Paddy Pimblett. I think Jared Gordon is a little bit better than, someone like Jordan Levitt, who Paddy Pimblett fought in his last fight. But I would have preferred maybe a Jim Miller or maybe even a Terrence McKinney next for Paddy Pimblett. I think those matchups would have been more compelling. But I do think there is a possibility, and we'll see when I get to my prediction, that Jared Gordon could get an upset victory over Paddy Pimblett. So I'm very curious to see how this fight goes. Jared Gordon's been in the UFC forever. This would be a massive win. There is something to be said for derailing a hype train. And if Jared Gordon can go out there and beat Paddy Pimblett, he will find himself in some good fights in the future. He will find himself potentially maybe even getting a ranked opponent next. I don't think that's super likely, but if he goes out there and derails Paddy Pimblett in the hype train, Jared Gordon's name will be elevated. And I get it will be known as, oh, that's the guy that beat Paddy. But there will be a lot of eyeballs on this fight. It's the co-main event of a pay-per-view. A lot of people care about Paddy Pimblett's career. And if Jared Gordon can get the upset, that would be massive for him. As far as Paddy Pimblett, the UFC, is kind of giving him favorable matchmaking. They're not giving him that massive step up in competition. But if Paddy Pimblett wins this fight, I think in his next fight, he's got to fight someone close to the top 15. Maybe even in the top 15. And, the UFC can only do these certain matchups outside of the rankings for so long, especially when your name gets so much hype behind it. But I will say one thing. I do not think Paddy Pimblett is overrated. I have not seen anyone say, oh, Paddy Pimblett's definitely going to be a champion, or Paddy Pimblett's definitely going to be a contender. I think most people are kind of real about his skill set. Paddy Pimblett has looked beatable in his first 3 UFC fights. And they think, Paddy Pimblett's a fun fighter. He's an exciting fighter. But I have barely seen anyone ever say they see Paddy Pimblett as a champion. So I don't think he's overrated. I do think he's a bit overhyped. I mean, it's crazy how much we're hearing about him. But nonetheless, if he goes out there and puts on a big performance against Jared Gordon in the co-main event of a pay-per-view, there is no doubt in my mind that Paddy Pimblett will find himself in a huge fight in his next fight. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, Paddy Pimblett is 19-3. Jared Gordon is 19-5. Neither one of these guys is ranked. Pimblett is 27, Gordon is 34, Pimblett is 5'10, Gordon is 5'9, Pimblett has a 73-inch reach, and Gordon has a 68-inch reach. So a 5-inch reach advantage for Paddy Pimblett in this fight. If you look at Jared Gordon, of his 19 wins, 6 by knockout, 2 by submission, 11 by decision. Of his 5 losses, 4 by knockout and 1 by submission. He comes into this fight on a 1-fight win streak against Leonardo Santos back at UFC 278, August of this year. And this was an unimpressive performance. There was some clinch work. There were some failed takedowns from Leonardo Santos. And basically, Gordon just landed the better shots on the feet and threw more volume. The fight before that, he lost to Grant Dawson via a third-round rear naked choke. Pretty much got out-grappled the majority of the fight, had some decent scrambles, had shown some ability to get up. And Grant Dawson is a very good wrestler. We just saw him out-wrestle Mark Madsen and then call out the dead corpse of Tony Ferguson, which I thought was disgraceful, but that's a topic for another video. But Grant Dawson, just constantly shooting takedowns on Jared Gordon, eventually gets one in the third round. I actually think Gordon was stuffing like a single leg, but Dawson is just so relentless with his takedowns, forces a scramble, gets his back, and chokes him out in the third round. The fight before that, he beat Joe Solecki via split decision. Jarrett Gordon was actually getting out-grappled in this fight, and it was a very close fight, and it could have went either way. But Joe Solecki was getting Jarrett Gordon down and then getting reversed, and then Joe Solecki was ending up on bottom, and Jarrett Gordon was having some control time. I think it was the first round Joe Solecki clearly won. Second round, Jarrett Gordon clearly won. And then the third round was kind of debatable, and it was primarily striking. And Jarrett Gordon gets the split decision. Could have went either way, honestly. And, outside of that, I want to mention his 4 losses that he has within the UFC are all by finish. Carlos Diego Ferreira, he got TKO'd in the first round. Joaquin Silva, KO'd in the third round. Charles Oliveira, which is crazy, fought Charles Oliveira back in 2019, November 2019. That's crazy. KO'd in the first round. And Grant Dawson, I already talked about it, third round rear naked choke. So when he does lose, he gets finished. You look at Paddy Pimblett, of his 19 wins, 6 by knockout, 9 by submission, 4 by decision. Of his 3 losses, 1 by submission and 2 by decision. He's been in the UFC for 3 fights. He debuted back in September of 2021. So he's only been in the UFC for a little over a year, and his name has grown to be massive. He is a star in the making, if not arguably already a star. The only reason I say maybe not just yet, because we'll have to see if he's able to draw some pay-per-views. But right now he's an unranked lightweight contender. He comes into this fight on a 5-fight winning streak. His last fight was against Jordan Levitt in July. Got out-grappled in the first round, or for the majority of the first round, got out-grappled. The last 30 seconds of the first round may have won the first round for Paddy Pimblett. He reverses a takedown of Jordan Levitt. Next thing you know, he's on the back of Jordan Levitt, landing ground and pound, then looking for a choke. Ends up in full mount to end the round, and arguably could have won that first round. And Jordan Levitt didn't do a lot of damage with the takedowns. The second round, he comes out. Jordan Levitt tries to clinch some more. And, Paddy Pimblett is just so good with the grappling. Jordan Levitt's clinched up. Paddy Pimblett locks up some weird, almost like he's going for a choke of some sort as he's up against the fence. He's able then to knee Jordan Levitt in the head, which gets Jordan Levitt to drop down. Paddy swings around, takes the back, grabs the body triangle, and while he's grabbing the body triangle, he traps Jordan Levitt's hand and arm. And basically, at that point, Jordan Levitt's one-armed, and he can't defend the rear naked choke, and Paddy Pimblett gets a second round rear naked choke. The fight before that was in March of this year against Rodrigo Vargas. This fight, was pretty exciting while it lasted. It ended in the first round. Paddy Pimblett wins via first round rear naked choke as well. And in this fight, Rodrigo Vargas landed some good shots early, kind of got Paddy Pimblett scrambling, and Paddy Pimblett ended up on the bottom, but didn't really do much once he had Paddy Pimblett down there. Eventually, Paddy scrambles back to his feet, hip tosses Rodrigo Vargas, and the next thing you know, he's on the back getting the rear naked choke. And then his UFC debut against Luigi Vendramini back in September of last year, got clipped badly in the first round, hurt badly, looking like he was going to be finished. He was able to survive. The next thing you know, he hurts Luigi Vendramini and then just swarms him and brutally finishes him with a swarming combination up against the fence. And that's all 3 of his fights within the UFC. His last loss was in September 2018. He lost via decision, but he hasn't fought the best competition, The best win that he has on his resume, and this was so long ago, so I don't know how much this win really means, is a 2016 win against Julian Erosa. But that was so long ago, how much does that really mean? But Paddy Pimblett is still very young. One thing I want to mention, a lot of people for some reason, I feel like they think of Paddy Pimblett as a striker. He's a very good grappler, and he's primarily a grappler and a submission guy. I know, he's knocked out Luigi Vendramini. I know he was beating up Jordan Levitt on the feet a bit, and that's kind of, what eventually led to the position that he ended up in. I know against Rodrigo Vargas, he looked good on the feet as well, throw a lot of power punches, but Paddy Pimblett, primarily a grappler and looking for the submission. So when I look at this fight, I see Jarrett Gordon, who's a very decent fighter, but he's not great anywhere. He's well-rounded. And I see Paddy Pimblett, who has good takedowns, has good submissions, Doesn't have the best striking, especially defensively. His chin's always sticking up in the air. And I think when Paddy Pimblett loses, I think eventually it's going to be via KO or TKO. So if Jared Gordon wins this fight, I think he brutally TKOs Paddy or KOs and puts him out cold. But Jared Gordon doesn't have a lot of power. So I think Jared Gordon is going to have to win this fight on the feet, and he's going to have to win via decision. I don't see him going out there. He might get he could get a takedown on Paddy Pimblett, but Pimblett's so good. He'll look for scrambles. He'll be able to scramble back to his feet. He'll be able to get reversals. He'll be looking for submissions off his back. And I don't think Jared Gordon, a path to victory, is just taking Pimblett down and holding him down. So I think what's going to have to happen for Gordon, he's going to have to stuff the takedown attempts of Paddy Pimblett and just outstrike him on the feet. But I think Paddy Pimblett is so much bigger than Jared Gordon. I think he has much more power than Jared Gordon. He's much younger than Jared Gordon. So my official prediction for this fight is going to be Paddy Pimblett late first round rear naked choke. I think Jared Gordon is going to look all right on the feet. I don't think he has the power to put Paddy Pimblett out. Paddy Pimblett has shown a very good chin, and I don't think somebody like Jared Gordon, who really doesn't have crazy power, is going to be able to put him to sleep. And I think Paddy Pimblett is bigger. Jared Gordon looks like he belongs at featherweight. He's not a big lightweight at all. And I think every one of Jared Gordon's losses in the UFC is via finish. Paddy Pimblett has nasty kicks on the feet. His hands leave a lot to be desired, but I think Pimblett, he's a super exciting fighter. He will pressure Jared Gordon. He will look to land big shots, and I think eventually he will find one of those big shots, whether it be a jumping head kick or one of his hooks. I think he'll hurt Jared Gordon on the feet, eventually get an advantageous position on the ground, and find a rear naked choke in the late first round. I just think Gordon's too small. I think Paddy Pimblett's going to be stronger. I think Paddy Pimblett will eat the shots of Jared Gordon well. And I just don't see Jared Gordon really finding a path to victory. I think you could even see Paddy Pimblett take Jared Gordon down. Let's say Paddy was losing badly on the feet, which I don't think is going to happen. Paddy Pimblett has a reach advantage. I think Gordon's a little bit more technical striker. Paddy Pimblett's a super wild on the feet. But I think the reach disadvantage combined with Paddy Pimblett has really good side kicks to manage the distance. He has really good jumping kicks. I think he's just going to find that shot that rocks Jared Gordon. Maybe Jared Gordon starts looking for a desperation takedown. Paddy sprawls, takes the back, and finds a rear naked choke. I'll say a rear naked choke with 46 seconds left in the first round. Paddy Pimblett finds the finish. And I'm curious, if he beats Jared Gordon, does the UFC give him a ranked opponent in his next fight? That's what I'm genuinely curious to see. If Paddy Pimblett goes out there and passes this test that is Jared Gordon, does he get a ranked opponent in his next fight? So let me know what you guys think. What is your prediction for this fight? Are you picking Paddy Pimblett or Jared Gordon? Does Jared Gordon have a chance to upset Paddy Pimblett? I don't think it's super likely, but I think it's possible. I'm very confident in Paddy Pimblett in this fight, and I think the UFC picked Jared Gordon because they thought there was a very good probability that Paddy Pimblett would come out on top, and they are building him as a star within the UFC. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, and I will see you in the next video.